Yo, what's going on everyone? It's the Casual Cube, and in this video we're going to be looking at a mono red sub $20 zero rare Flame of Keld deck for week 1 of Ravnica Allegiance. And I think this is the best way to go about, if you have a friend who's brand new to Magic, or maybe you're just coming from MTG Arena, you don't have any paper cards yet, but you want to jump into Friday Night Magic immediately. I think this is the best way to go about it while the meta is going to still be established. Everyone's trying to experiment with new things. I think the best way, if you want to win week 1, is just to go mono red aggro and just, flood them out, burn them. Very straightforward, very linear gameplay, but at the same time, I think it's the best way to go about having a budget and beginner-friendly deck. So, first thing I want to talk about is mono white. A lot of people would recommend mono white as another great budget option or beginner friendly option. But in the case of Benelish Marshall and Venerated Loxodon are two key rares I think in that deck, where just having the benefit of pumping up your whole team, giving them the extra strength to go on and burn out your opponent, strength in numbers. Benelish Marshall's trading at about $1.50 to about $2. Venerated Loxodon is about 60 to 75 cents, maybe under $1 at some vendors. Playing with the rares, it does add up to the budget, so just keep that in mind. But if you have a brand new friend who's really cheap, that cheapo friend, I think mono red is the best way to go about it. And of course, with a lot of Legion's Landing, History of Benalia, these cards really pump up mono white to another level, so that's another money sink. But in the case of mono red, we're going to focus on the Flame of Keld. So this is a uncommon from Dominaria, and there's just so much greatness about this card. It's just the art, the enchantment saga, it's just very flavorful. It really promotes a play style, and we can build around this card. Now, well, first of all, if you don't know what it does, the first clause, once you play it, you have to discard your hand. That's the first chapter. But then on your following turn, you draw a card, and then after that, you go to the second chapter and draw 2 more cards. So what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to build around this kind of philosophy where we aren't punished by the discard your hand chapter. So we're going to focus on 1-drops, and we're going to play with the Viashino Pyromancers, which are a 2-drop, but we're mainly going to focus on the 1-drops, where we just flood out our hand. Turn 1, we play 1-drop. Turn 2, we play 2 1-drops. That way we don't really suffer from that clause where we have to discard our hand. And then on the 3rd chapter, this is where we go wild with the deck. We just burn them out, we shock them, we use our Fanatical Firebrands, we use our Spear Spewer, where we can just try and get as much damage in as possible on that 3rd chapter. Another thing I want to mention is, do you play the 4th copy of Flame of Keld? I think it's up to you. I'm playing with 3 copies in this deck list, but if you want to play with 4 copies of Flame of Keld, it's really up to you, because there's a philosophy where you say, well, I always want to see this card as often as possible, as early as possible. There could be merit to running 4, but at the same time, if you do get really unlucky and you draw the 2nd copy, then the 3rd copy, that's going to feel really bad. So I think it's up to you whether you play 3 copies or 4 copies. I think 3 is a sweet spot, because we're also going to be using light up the stage as another form of card draw. So I think that's going to be another great complement to this card. Of course, Fanatical Firebrand, again, like I said, with Flame of Keld, it can just sit back and wait for the 3rd chapter, or early in the game, it can immediately be a 1-mana 1/1 haster. Goblin Banneret over here I think is going to be pretty sweet, paired up with the 10th Street Dodger, which is a new card from Ravnica Allegiance, where the 10th Street Dodger, you have to pay 1 red and give it unblockable, except if the opponent has a defender, it can be blocked. But with Goblin Banneret, I think it's going to be sweet, because it's going to give us, not only is it a 1-drop where we can just flood out, but also we can pump it up later on in the game along with the 10th Street Dodger. Give it Mentor, give it a 1/1 counter, and then all of a sudden it's an unblockable with a 1/1 counter on it. And in the case of Rigging Runner, it's going to be most often in this deck a 2/2 First Striker for 1 mana, which is a really sweet deal. A 1 mana for 2/2 I think is way ahead of the curve. Add on First Strike on top of that, this deck really is going to easily achieve getting that 1/1 counter just by attacking. We're going to be swinging in every turn. Hopefully, we're going to be the aggressor early in the game, and we can just get that 2/2 with the First Strike for 1 mana. It's just a sweet deal. But yeah, 10th Street Dodger is going to be along with the Spear Skewer, the 2 cards from Ravnica Allegiance that we're going to throw in here. An uncommon and a common should be easily, on the budget, easy on the budget, cheap cards that you can easily buy. People are probably going to be giving away these cards at the pre-release, so just keep a heads up for that. Pre-release is tomorrow, by the way. Hope you guys have a great one. But anyways, 10th Street Dodger, again, with the Goblin Banneret, we can add on a Mentor counter, and just start plugging in for can't be blocked damage, unblockable damage. Spear Skewer, of course he's a defender, but at the same time he can constantly get in that ping damage. We don't care that he's doing damage to us because hopefully we are the ones, being the the aggro deck early in the game where we don't really care about that 1 damage to us. But also, he can sit back on the 3rd chapter of Flame of Keld, and then all of a sudden he's doing 3 damage. Of course, we're gonna be playing with the shocks and lightning strikes. Just we're a burn deck, a very very aggressive deck. Viashino Pyromancer is our only 2-drop. We're not really like a sniper deck where we have a bunch of spells for electrostatic field. So just playing with the Viashino Pyromancer 2-drop 2/1. I guess they call them pikers. 2/1 piker with a shock built in. It's just a great 2-drop for our deck, for the mono red burn deck. Again, 3 copies of Flame of Keld is just my choice from looking at all the other Flame of Keld decks online. A lot of them just play with 3. I have seen some with 4 though, so just heads up, it's your call. But to complement the Flame of Kelds, I think we're going to be using the new cards, Light Up the Stage and Skewer the Critics. So both of these have Spectacle 1, which is great because we should easily be able to get those, Spectacle just by pinging our opponent with our various ways with the Spear Skewer or Spear Spewer or the Fanatical Firebrand, or just shocking them, lightning striking them. It should easily be done. So with Light Up the Stage, this card's insane. I think it's really going to upstage Experimental Frenzy. I think it's just way quicker for 1 mana, and you can play land off of it. It's just so sweet. I just love this card so much. And then the Skewer, this Critics, I think is just on top of that with all the other burn decks. I think a lot of burn decks, Rakdos Burn, Mono Red, everyone's going to be playing Skewer the Critics. I think it's just going to be amazing. So our land base is going to be very straightforward. 18 mountains, and that's it. That's probably the main reason why this deck is going to be so cheap. And again, if you have that cheapo friend, just have some lands laying around, build this cheap, no rare, red deck. Give it to them for their first Friday Night Magic, or whoever else is a beginner. I think they're gonna have a good time because it's very straightforward deck. For sideboard, I think against treasure maps, Karn for Goblin Crater Maker to face. I don't think there's going to be anyone playing the Arcades like Defender deck, but you never know. Just have 1 copy against that deck. I'm sure someone's going to try and bring it at an FNM. But again, against Treasure Map mainly is the main thing that we're going to sideboard against, just so they don't have that early game start where they can just scry and everything. 4th copy of Light Up the Stage. If your deck's stalling out, maybe throw in the 4th. Collision over here I think is going to be great, even though we can't use the Colossus part, just because of all the Drake decks. Niv Mizzet, Lyra Dawnbringer, the new flyer, the Angel flyer from Ravnica Allegiance, or the new Dragon. There's a bunch of new flyers. The 4/4 for Spectacle 3, the Demon guy. So, just throwing 4 copies in here. I think it's better than Lava Coil because it reaches up to 6. It doesn't exile, of course, but just having the extra reach where it can take out a Niv Mizzet, I think is going to be key. So I think Collision is great from the sideboard for all 4 copies. Burn Bright, I don't know if just throw it in as a singleton, experiment with it. Squeeze the Immortal, I just threw in here against the control decks, just a persistent annoyance. You can play from exile. Repeating Barrage again against the endurance matchup. Where we can really utilize that raid and repeat damage. And then Hijack over here, I think is going to be a sleeper from the sideboard. If you're going against the, maybe a new Groll deck, or, something that's ginormous, Galta or whatever, dream scenario, just throw it in from the sideboard into your main deck, and it's going to be a surprise. And I think you can maybe win game 2 off of that, just from having the Hijack. Not really sure if you're going to you're gonna use it for artifacts, but mainly against creatures. Again, the dream scenario is Galta, so that'd be sweet. But yeah, that's mono red. Very straightforward deck. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Should be really cheap going into week 1. So if you need something, or if your friend needs something, hope this helps you guys. So yeah, have a good one. Hope you guys have a great pre-release tomorrow. And yeah, I can't wait for the new meta. It's gonna be super sweet. Gonna be a lot of fun new decks.